Welcome to the Mortgage Podcast, where we give tactics, strategies, and inspiration to get you to 10 plus loans per month. We talk a lot about how to make a ton of money in mortgage while also being happy and thriving in your personal life. If you want to be a mortgage millionaire, you're in the right place.
Hello, everyone. It's Todd Screamer with the Mortgage Podcast. We have a super fun subject today. This is the 5 stages of a loan officer development. I created this visual that I'm going to show you, and I'll describe it verbally for those that aren't watching on YouTube. But I wish someone would have given this to me so many years ago. I really wish someone would have shown it to me, because it would have told me what I need to work on in my business in order to dominate sooner. My last 11 years as a loan officer, I closed 141 million on average per year in mortgage loans. So I was a really good originator and very consistent, which I prided myself on. And it's not that I didn't have, but my average closings were 28 first mortgages a month. You know, a bad month would be 18 and a good month would be 42, right? So, but I didn't close like 25 and then 5, right? I was pretty darn consistent. So, and I think that's because I track my numbers so well, but I'm going to show you a visual and I'm going to go through it so that it starts to make sense. I think that most people that are listening to this will get the most value out of stages 3, 4, and 5, because if you pay attention, it will help you understand what to work on next. I want you to think of this kind of like years ago in college, I took a child development class and they showed a similar visual, and it was basically like, hey, here's how a baby's brain works. Here's how a toddler brain works. Here's how a teenager's brain works. Here's how we, as a mature adult, say over 20 to 40 years old, how we think. Here's how a middle-aged person thinks, right? And so it gives you context that, hey, like right now, I got Jason and Annette are 2 of my family members, and they just moved here from the Midwest. And they're staying at my house for a month or so until they find a rental. We've been trying to get them to move out here for a couple of years. So they're both, I think, 32 years old. They have a 4-month-old baby. They have a 1-year-old, and they have, or like a 14-month-old, and they have a 5-year-old. All girls. Each of those girls are way different, right? When I talk to the baby, I'm like, cuckoo, caw, playing with the rattle. The 1-year-old loves to talk. So she's like, ta, 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 right? And we run around the house and, play hide and seek. And then the 5-year-old's like, Todd, can you play dolls with me? Can we play this Lego set? Those are just 3, right? They're at different stages. And so they're working on different things. The 14-month-old is just starting to talk, right? She could say, Mom, Dad. She calls me Ta. You could kind of understand her phrasing if you pay attention, but it's hard, right? She said, the other day, she called our dog. She said, Da. And I'm like, oh, dog, right? So she'll get there, but this is kind of what this is like. And I want to put this in a picture. So for those that aren't on YouTube, if you go to YouTube after this to the Mortgage Podcast with Todd Screamer, you'll see the visual. I'm going to show this to you on screen. And here's what it looks like. So at level 1, that's usually people that are just getting started. The top of this is called the loan officer development process, i.e. the maturity model. That doesn't mean if you're in level 0, you're immature. It means that you're not mature in the business yet, okay? So level 0 is everything's chaos. Don't know what you're doing, no team, no accounts, you're scratching out a loan a month or something and you're making less than 60 grand a year. Level 1 is called reactive. So we're learning to sell. We fight fires. We're learning to fight the fires. We don't have a team. We don't really have anything time blocked. We might have 1 or 2 or 3 referrals, people sending us loans. We're doing maybe 5 face-to-faces a week because we can't figure out how to get people to meet with us. Our leads, 20 or less leads a month, and our income is 100 grand or less a year. So that is not right or wrong, right? It's just how we think about these things. Okay. Level 2 is proactive. We're starting to learn to be proactive. The subheading here is gaining confidence. We're learning to sell still, but we're gaining confidence. I remember I was about 1 year as a loan officer, and I at the time, 33 years ago, $10,000 in a month. My first $10,000 check. I took a felt marker and I wrote on it, Dad, I did it. And I faxed him a copy of my paycheck. Dad calls me later on that night and he says, son, you made $10,000 in a month? I said, yeah. He's like, wow, you're really like, you're 1 year in. Like, I can't imagine you won't make 20, 30, 40,000 a month over the next few years. I said, I know. I got off that phone because we talked for like 30 minutes. My dad was a very big mentor of mine in business. And I felt confident and I knew that my dad believed in me. And that's when I started to think, I'm going to do this forever. I'm going to learn to get really, really good at this. So at level 2, I might have a LP1, like a shared assistant maybe. I have some basic time blocking, like I'm supposed to do my calls. I've got the sales meeting. I've got loan apps in my schedule, but it's still very clunky. I have 3 or 4 referral accounts, people that send me business, but no big ones. I'm starting to do more and more face-to-faces. So now I'm up to maybe 10 face-to-face meetings a week. And my income's 100 grand or so a year, maybe 200 grand. Okay. That's level 2. My guess is a lot of people that are listening to this are at level 2. If I had to pick the most common level, it's probably level 2. I think a lot of zeros, unless you're new in the business, those people are out of the business. A lot of level 1 people are out of the business. It's really hard to close 6 loans a year and say that you've got a career, right? You're just not good at it or you're not working. So now we get to level 3. Level 3 is leverage. That's the subheading. More predictable results. And your business can run without you for short periods. So you can actually go on vacation. More predictable, less market driven, small team, maybe a full-time assistant, proactive time schedule. So we're doing more of what makes us money, 15 or more face-to-faces. We're learning to get a lot of appointments. And our income's about $250,000 to $500,000 a year. For most loan officers, if they could get to level 3 and stay there, that would be awesome. I think that most people can't get to level 3 because they don't make enough sales calls. And if you won't make the sales calls, what you're always going to hear from me is hire someone to make them for you, because you ain't going to make them. If you haven't made them for 3 years, you ain't going to make them. I talked to one of my loan officers yesterday. He's a $30 million producer. And he's like, Todd, I haven't proactively called a realtor in 2 months. And I'm like, if that continues, you're not going to make much money. He's a good loan officer. He's been doing this a long time. And he's very energetic and comes across really well. He just doesn't sell enough. And so we got into all these discussions like, are you depressed? Is your marriage okay? Like what's going on? Okay. He's a guy that will bounce back between level 2 and level 3. Bounce back and forth. I wish people didn't do that, but there's something inside most of us salespeople that says, I got it all figured out. I've done it a few times. I've got it all figured out. And then we don't. And so I don't think this is easy. It's not easy for me, but I think it's worth understanding. And so how do we, in level 3, we're starting to learn leverage. We're starting to learn, hey, team members can do things for us. We can have a person make sales calls for us. My job is more closing people. It's more presenting. And if you really understand that in level 3, that really works. Okay. Then you got level 4. 1 or 2% of loan officers ever reach this. It's called multiply. That's where you can have a real business that can operate without you for 2-3 weeks at a time. You are more, I call it love-based. And I know that's not a word people use in business, but you just help people to help people. You're not worried about survival or making the mortgage. You're making a lot of money. You're saving a lot of money. So you feel secure. And that's when we start to give back. So you're very much more give back of people than thinking, how can I take, right? Like Hungry Hippo game. How can I take the marbles? And you're more like, hey, let me play the game. If I'm playing with someone else, let me let them get some marbles. Okay. And I know that sounds very maybe hard to relate to, but it does happen. Okay. You work 40 hours or less a week. You have more than 15 referral accounts. You have a lot of face-to-faces. I did a post last week. I had a pretty normal week and I had 120 face-to-faces. So you just learn to leverage your time a lot more. Okay. And your income grows to 500,000 to over $1 million. 500,000 to over $1 million. Okay, Todd, that makes sense. Again, if you want the visual, you can get it on YouTube. But what do I take from all this? I would say a couple things. Number one, you're going to have to use leverage in your business. I don't think that you can be all things to all people and work 50 hours a week and close 3 loans a month. I don't think that that is going to benefit you. I think you're going to get burned out and you're going to quit the business, or you're just going to tolerate it. Like, Todd, I don't really have any other skills. I'm scared to do anything else. And you're going to stay stuck. Leverage is the answer. So, and I would say that to any business person, okay? You're going to have to learn leverage. There's a book, I said it a couple times before, but How to Buy Back Your Time, written by Dan Martell. It's a very popular business book. It's very popular because he knew how to say it, and he does it. And people know that that's the secret, is being able to leverage your time. When he says buy back your time, really what he's talking about is delegation. If you read the book and you study it, and he gets very specific, he's like, hey, what do you spend your time on that's most important? Have other people do all the rest. You can either hire people or you can outsource it. I've mentioned a few times on this podcast on the internal program we use for our loan officers called Jolt. It basically does a bunch of stuff for them, all their marketing and all their front end sales. And people are like, that's amazing. People are doubling their volume. I got to brag for a second. I had 21 loan officers on a call last week, part of this Jolt coaching program that I do with my loan officers. They were closing 243 loans. It was like 11.7 per loan officer. All those people, literally 6 months ago before I got them, were doing less than half that. So it would have been about 100 loans. They're closing 243 this month. So you look at 143, let me just do some math, 143 loans closed. Our average commission is about $4,700 per loan. So they're making another $672,000 this month, an extra 672, 21 loan officers. That's an extra $32,000 in income per person because they outsource their leverage. So whether you do it on your own or do something like that, do something. You're not going to get to level 4 and 5 without it. It's the biggest miss that loan officers have. The other thing I want you to glean from this maturity model is just how sharp our marketing and sales skills need to become. There's a reason that some people really do well and some people really struggle. You know, it's like I was talking to someone a couple of weeks ago. He's like, I can't get people to meet with me. I said, because you're not that fun and you don't have any value to give them. So people look at you as, why would I meet with you? So to give you an extreme example, if Oprah Winfrey came into town or Barack Obama and someone called you and said, hey, Barack and Oprah would like to have lunch with you today, you would say yes. Even if you weren't a Democrat or you didn't love Oprah, you'd probably still go because their reputation precedes them. So that is influence. And that's part of what we're talking about here. It's how do you say, well, Todd, you don't wave a magic wand and be influential. It's a process. Learning to be influential, learning how to use leverage. But if you want to be a top performer and close 10 plus loans a month, you're going to have to learn these things. I just gave you a visual version of what that looks like and some of the metrics to it. Okay. And my hope is it encourages you that you could do it too. I've seen so many people in this business. They didn't think they could do it. I got a lady right now, she's young adult. I think she's 32. She was closing 1.7 loans a month. I started doing all of her social, all of her appointment setting, just, all of our Jolt process. She's averaging 7 loans a month. Last month, she just closed 10. It was the first time in her life she ever closed 10 loans. So leverage works. Making a lot of sales calls works. Learning how to be more influential and add value works. And it's what really top people do that are outperforming everybody else. It's not a secret. And one of my goals with a podcast like this is to help the person that's closing 3, 4, 5 loans a month, let them understand how to get to 10. And those 3 things that I just talked about is how you will do it. So I hope that makes sense. Okay. Share this with someone. I think this is a great one to send to another loan officer you work with or a loan officer that you network with and say, hey, I got a lot from this. Why don't you check it out? Okay. I think that helping other people, even if it's just a podcast, I send podcasts to people I sent podcasts to 2 people this morning. not mine, but someone else's. I guess that'd be kind of narcissistic. And I just said, hey, this is our conversation yesterday. Here's another way that this guy says it, right? That will help. I think that is love. And in a world that is very divisive right now, if you don't want to feel that way, the opposite of that is gratitude and love. Just show it. Like, I think it feels good to show it and not be in fear, not be like, oh, this is mine. When you do that, you create something special. Your life improves, your money improves, your relationships improve, and it makes your whole life better. So yes, I want you to share the show because that's how this stuff grows, but I want you to know why you would do it. You would do it because it fills your cup. It helps other people. Okay. God bless everyone. Have a beautiful week. Talk to you next week.